Foster's Kitchen.
All right, welcome to the season premiere of Season 3, Episode 1 of the Neutral Zone. We are proud to not only welcome a very special guest today, Eric Grody, but we are also equally excited to say that we made it to the third season after lots of demand. Lots of big networks wanted to sign with us, but we decided to stay with the network that we're the most comfortable with, which is out of the Naperville and Deerfield collective homes. So we will continue our show. Today we have a really exciting show in store for you. We're going to be covering a couple of important things. Eric's going to walk us through the most recent published stats of all of the Woodridge scoring leaders. We're going to talk to him about not only games played, goals, defensive players, how the league has evolved over the many years. As many of you know, Eric's been a guest on our show previously. So this is possibly your third time on the show, if I'm not mistaken. Second or third? I think it might be third.
Third, yeah, I think it's third or fourth, because I know I was on the show a lot when we were covering the tournament for Hockey Monsters.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how many times that was, because there was a lot of coverage there.
But Eric's been a great supporter of the show. He advocates for us on his own on his app, as does Frank on the Team Chicago, and Eric does it for Hockey Monsters. So we're going to get into a lot of things, but first and foremost, I want to wish all the fathers a happy belated Father's Day. I hope you enjoyed your Father's Day. Please do what Stomps always reminds you to do: like and subscribe. Well, he does. He likes more of the likes. I like to subscribe to our channel. But happy Father's Day. Lots of fathers out there in the ball hockey world of Chicago. I was gifted with this Top Dad shirt, so I'm very excited. I'm also excited that the Blue Jays are playing the White Sox today. So hopefully the Blue Jays can win and take over that series. So very good stuff happening in Chicago. Stomps, before we get started, what are your thoughts on the Colorado Tampa Bay Stanley Cup final?
I thought Colorado was going to probably sweep them the way they were playing, but that game was closer than the score indicated last night, Game 3. So Tampa's going to have to, I think, go to another level if they're going to win this series, because Colorado, again, we'll see what happens in goal. That'll be interesting. I think they'll come back and play Kemper tomorrow night. I don't think they'll change necessarily. But yeah, it's been a great series so far. It's the first 3 games, there have been at least 7 goals in each game. So I think it's the first time since the 82 finals, the Islanders and the Canucks had, that much scoring going on.
Right.
So that's exciting. And the Chicago Wolves, their series is tied at 1 in the finals. They won Game 2 last night. So now 3, 4, and 5 are in Springfield.
Okay, great. That's good. That's very good. And I predict that series is not going to go to 7. I think from what I'm seeing is that at home, though, a lot of the teams are having a feast on the opposition. And they said something interesting. They said that when they play, the visiting team plays in Colorado, that they're having trouble with the altitude over there, and it's affecting their performance. Eric, do you think that also happens with Woodridge when people play outdoor on humid conditions? Like if we played today, do you think that would have some impact on a 5-game series?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're not conditioned for it, it's gonna weigh down on you. Also, what I've noticed over the years is when we used to play like 2 or 3 games in the summer, that third game, most of the people who were playing in that were playing already the other 2 games. So they were all wiped out. So the third game was more of like a walking exhibition than anything. But yeah, to your point, the altitude, they always talk about the altitude in like Colorado, and I've never experienced it myself, unfortunately, but I think it's a factor.
Yeah, for sure. What I did notice is during that tournament that you did, and this is why I like to relate the NHL to what we're doing here. But I did notice that in that tournament that you hosted, I think it's going to be 2 years in October. That some of the guys that were regulars at Woodridge seemed to have a better knack of what to do on that court, and some of the other folks that came from rinks that they were more accustomed to, I think they struggled a little bit in the early games, and then they started to pick it up. But the regulars from Woodridge seem to understand that I guess that landscape a little bit more.
So I agree with you, but I also think it was a challenge for guys that play there on a regular basis. And the reason why is because not only were the games half the length that they normally are, but the pace was much more intense. And you can probably relate because you guys came in and you had a really good team, and you guys didn't, like, even yourself, like you didn't play at the relaxed pace that you typically do, like on a Sunday. Like you were focused, but that's a tournament, right? And that's what we all do. But people who play there regularly, they had to kind of turn on that switch. So I think it was adjustment for them too, but probably not as big of an adjustment for like a team like the Dolphins, who had never played there before and were used to playing with like offsides. You kind of tell, like, because they didn't really have any playmaking down low. They kind of just took the ball across the center line and took a shot. And a lot of people who don't normally play there, that's kind of like how they play, is they just try to get it to the net and fire.
Right.
At least those were my observations.
No, I think they're good observations. And one of the things that's really hard is within the same day, you have to make adjustments, because, in no disrespect to the guys who are in the 8 a.m. Sunday slot, but the 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning slot has a different pace. So you played in both games, as did Stomps on Sunday, and you had to modify your game from the 8 a.m. to the 9:30. You played in net, and Stomps and I played out, but there was a faster pace with the caliber of talent in that 9:30 slot.
Yeah, well, you had a big jump. I mean, Mike was in that game. Tim was in that game. John Kelly was in that game. Chris Sheets was in that game. I don't remember if I mentioned Frank. He was in there. Joe was in there.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, those are like six, seven top players right there. And, you know, even though they're split up, like, you have to expect that you're going to get, like, as a goalie, I knew I was going to get pelted with shots. And I tried to have no expectations coming into that as a goalie, because one, like, I don't play it regularly anymore, and two, I'd already played the first game, so I was already kind of worn down a little bit. But I was despite that our team lost, like, it was only a 2-goal difference, and I thought we held on. That game could have gone south, but we held on, and we came close.
Right. I like that game. I enjoyed that game very much. I think at one point we were down by 5.
Yeah, I think it was after the second period, like, I mean, you could pull up the game sheet if you're interested, but yeah, it was looking grim, like, after the second period. And I just said, well, I'm just going to keep playing. You know, you didn't hear a peep out of me. You know, right. I don't like to yell at my teammates. You guys know your job. You know, me yelling at you isn't going to help you.
No, I mean, that's more, we leave that for Steve Fiorito to yell at his players. In terms of, you know, I was hoping it would be one of those like great Woodridge Sunday morning comebacks, but it wasn't one of those that we've seen in the past 4 or 5 weeks. But I thought the teams were the players were evenly distributed across both teams. We're going to get into Woodridge a little bit more. We can't have a show without talking about Elon Musk. We're just going to quickly provide 2 current events. Let me start with the business side of things. He's confirmed, like a lot of us, you know, very highly informed, educated business leaders, that, you know, he believes the U.S. recession is more likely than not. So that's not something to be excited about, coming from him, who's really connected to the economy. As you know, I guess he's the number 1 billionaire in the world today. So that's a bold statement from him. The second thing is more sad than anything. Like, I just heard that his daughter will be legally changing her last name, and she's cutting ties with him. So you never like to see families fall apart, no matter how much money the guy has. It's too bad to see his family falling apart. Stomps, any comments on the current events from Elon Musk?
No comments.
Okay. All right. Eric, we're not going to put you on the spot for that one.
I follow him pretty closely, which is why I find this humorous. But
yeah, I follow him too. Actually, speaking of Elon Musk, yesterday I pulled into Woodridge, Palatine, I'm sorry, for the Monday night game. And I pulled my car right up next to Art. And Art was driving a Kia or Sorento or something. And it really threw me off because Art is the pioneer of the Tesla. And he's one of the first Tesla owners. I looked over at him and I didn't have to say anything. He goes, I can't believe I'm driving this car. And, I said, what happened? He goes, his car had to be in the shop for like multiple service and repairs. And he said they didn't have a Tesla. So they gave him this gas guzzling machine. You could just see the disgust on his face. So anyway, we'll get to.
I just noticed you guys are often in the shop with those cars.
It's all computer stuff.
Apparently.
Okay, we're going to cover some of the stuff around the NBHL. It looks like we're due to have Frank on the show in a couple of weeks to do a little bit of a recap what's going on there, what are the plans. I did hear from one source that there is a team, Stomps, you can confirm that. I think we talked about on the last show, that continues to get slaughtered every Sunday. There's a couple of players on that team that seem to be really dejected. Saturdays. And what's the name of that team?
Union.
Okay, well, we just want to put out a little shout out to them for continuing to show up every Saturday, despite the uneven score. That's real perseverance and commitment to the league. So to the guys that play out on Union, I don't know who they are. I just know a couple of guys. I know the Gleasons are there. I think who else is on the Union team?
Well, just Joe Gleason.
Okay.
Stevie J, Jim Brill, Latham. I know Bobby D's played goal for them. I know I'm forgetting some people. Tommy Nipcon, I think, is on that team. Sean Dennison.
Yeah, okay.
A few others, yeah.
I think it's important to recognize guys that do that because they do that for the betterment of the league. It's not fun coming every week. All three of us here today have been on teams that have been really successful, and we've been on the opposite side of that, and it's really frustrating. I'm sure, Eric, you've had, when you brought the regulars into the league, you built up that team into like a really successful franchise. It wasn't always successful, right? Like it started off with challenges, and you really built a great roster. So you know what it takes to stay committed to a league.
Yeah, well, sorry if I'm correcting you here, but I took over the regulators team slot. Sean Frick was the one that brought the regulators in. Sorry, I know technicality, but
no, it's okay. It's good to know. I
don't want to take credit for something I didn't do. That's all that is about. Building a successful team is really difficult, especially in this environment. After COVID, a lot of the leagues, all sports leagues are kind of, in shambles. So it's not just floor hockey, but floor hockey more especially because we're such a small unit of people. When I built that team, like I literally was playing 4 or 5 days a week. I was playing in different leagues. I was trying to network with people. I mean, that alone is like a full-time job. And that's what it took to build that team. So I understand there's still people out there who have animosity towards the Foxhounds, and I get it. But that team wasn't like it wasn't like I just turned around, put a bunch of people on the roster and said, let's go. Like that team took a lot of energy and time and a commitment in managing to build that. So, people can say what they want. Like I'm proud of building that team, and we ended up having 12 championships over 10 years. And like, I'm proud of that. Like
that's amazing. That's a great accomplishment. And I'm sure anyone who's a, hockey loyalist and a hockey fan and like a builder like Lou Lamoriello, they can appreciate kind of like coming from something lesser and winning so many championships. The Raiders have won a lot. The Toros have won a lot. Really good franchises. Speaking of Toros, put Stomps on the spot here a little bit. It looks like the Toros, under the leadership of David Schmiel, have once again found a way to keep a competitive team on Mondays. I know you were not at the season opener last Monday, and they had a bye yesterday. But looks like that team is continuing on. Any comments on how the team looks?
Well, you just said it. I had to miss the opening game because I was out of town and the bye. So I talked to Steve Grass, and it sounded like the guys played really well and should have won a game, but had a couple of bad breaks late, and so I'm anxious to get back out there with them and just see what we got.
For sure. And Dave Schmiel has, went public and said that he really admired the chemistry despite the loss. So it's good to see, it has to start somewhere. So Stomps, does that mean that you're not going to be inserted in the next week's lineup due to the fact that they had chemistry without you?
No, I fully expect to be in the lineup.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on to a very, very exciting topic. I'm pleased here to, like I said, welcome Eric to the show, but more so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. And there's a way to do this, I'm pretty sure. I do it every single week, but for some reason that thing is not showing up here.
Send an instant message to Elon. He'll tell you.
Right, exactly. I'll figure this thing out in a second here. But what Eric's going to do is Eric's going to share with us the leading scorers, all-time leading scorers on.
Do you see the green nav where it says share screen?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just pointing you.
Yeah.
Just trying to get you there.
It's right in front of me. Okay, Eric, if you need me to increase the magnification, just let me know, but I could probably increase it a little bit here. Oh, that's too much.
You need to scroll down though to I thought we were going over the all-times, which is below, but these are the up-to-date for 2022. All right, here you go. There you go.
There you go. There's career.
Excellent. All time. Okay. So Eric, why don't you walk us through some of these things, and then, Stomps may pepper in a couple of questions here and there as you go through, but listen, this first, before you even start, Eric, this is incredible, by the way. I mean, the stats, the pie chart, the graphs, just the way that you put so much attention to detail here, commitment is just uncomparable to any. So awesome. Just to say, we really appreciate this as players and part of this. So
yeah, Eric, this is great stuff. And for those who didn't read it on the app, could you introduce this in a verbally in the way you wrote it out on the Hockey Monsters app? And
yeah.
Kind of introduce it.
So look, I'm sure most of the people who watch your show know what Hockey Monsters is, but for those that don't, Hockey Monsters is basically a floor hockey club, and all we are really about is just getting together and playing some pickup games. The pickup games are organized, though. We keep stats, we time the periods, and we try to make it as official as we can. Of course, we have to take some liberties, because we don't want to kill our goalies, or sometimes we got to take timeouts, if someone gets hurt. I would say it's about as competitive as you can get for pickup games, but it still holds that gentleman class, we all have to go to work the next day. And really that's every game that we host. That's kind of the agenda that I like us to kind of push, is let's make this fun for everybody. And let's just try to keep things, in a good spirit. And I think for the most part, we've been successful with that. Now, I started Hockey Monsters in 2008. And if you had happened to be there, Nav, and you had asked me, I look forward to playing with you for the next 14 years, I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way. There's no way. Because at the time, and if you ever go to our game sheets on the app, you could actually go and see what the first game was from 2008. We had 6 players. The score was 11-1 or something like that. I mean, it was a blowout because first game ever. I don't know how to balance teams really yet. And so over all these years, you kind of learn different talents. You learn how to balance teams better. You learn what kind of works and what doesn't. And even today, I still make mistakes. The other managing members still make mistakes. balancing teams is really hard, but we do the best we can, and we want to make sure that whenever someone comes in to play, like they at least feel they're getting a quality game. But in terms of what these stats represent, there's a lot of people that don't like them, and the reason why is like, well, I don't want to be measured against other people. And what I say to that is, this isn't like a measuring stick against like who's better than who, not at least not in my opinion. It's more of like, how have you done over the years? Because if I didn't track this, I wouldn't be able to tell you how many games we played, or how many points Nav's had up to year to date and all the games he's played. Like I couldn't tell you any of that. And I like being able to see that. It gives us history. I can look back at game sheets and I can remember games just by looking at the game sheet. And if you ask my wife, I can't remember what she told me 2 minutes ago, but I can remember games from like 2009. To me, that has a lot of value and meaning to me, and it's important to me. So a lot of people think I'm, nuts because I do this and I do it for free. It's charity, but I would just say it's a passion of mine. I've always kind of told people, like, if all the leagues shut down, like I'm still gonna find a way to accommodate everyone to have a place to play. Like I'd always do the best I can, and I still kind of hold that standard. And I hope that if you have a neutral zone in 10 years, we're all still playing. But in terms of what you're looking at, the career stats is the total of like all the games we've played. And since 2008, we've played 784 games. And I mean, I think it speaks for itself, but I don't know. I think if you've ever played any games on Sunday, I think it's important for you to take a minute, look through it, and just kind of digest it and just say like, yeah, you're part of this history, because you are. And none of this would have been possible without the participation of all these different players. Yes, I set up the platform and I did the administrative work to make this happen, but it happens because the players participate and they want to play. So at no means will you ever hear me say like, oh, I'm the reason all this happens and none of it will happen if it wasn't because of me. No, it's the players. The players make this happen. And I will never stop appreciating that at all, ever. Like I will always appreciate that. So it's, to me, like this is the reward for all the participation people have put in. And I hope that, everyone can feel like they're a piece of that history and, I don't know, just feel part of something.
Would you agree, Eric? It's a small minority of people that don't like the stats and say they don't like to be measured against folks. Because when I'm at every game on Sunday, when someone goes and writes the score and adds the goal and who got the assist, for the most part, I've always seen people most of the time, people want to ensure that they get credit for.
As they should. Like
yeah.
some people are kind of timid about it. They're like, oh, I had a goal, but you don't have to mark it if you don't want to. And I'm like, no, man. I'm like, if you earned it, take credit for it, please. Like I don't get mad about that. I don't want people giving themselves tallies for stuff they didn't earn. So I try to keep an eye on it, but I've never really had evidence that someone was doing that. So, and if you are, like, that's on you. I don't want, I earned those 10 or that 715 assists, and I'm proud of that. That's hard work on my part, at least for me at my skill level. But I don't know. I just, for the small minority, what you're talking about, I think people just get a little I think they get a little uncomfortable because maybe they feel there are some people that play just for the accolades and the points. And I think for some individuals that may be true, but at the end of the day, you play for your own motivations, right? So I'm not going to criticize that or praise it. If you want to play because you want to see how many goals you can get, go for it.
Right. No, I think it's great. Stomps, did you have anything to say? You look like you're ready to launch in there.
I got lots of questions.
Nice.
I love this stuff.
Fire away.
Well, Eric, you said how many unique players were there over the years?
Oh man.
Is it over 700 or am I more than that?
417.
Wow.
So would you say if we threw a name out, you'd probably remember them, even if they haven't played for a lot of years?
Maybe.
Okay.
So if you had asked that question 5-6 years ago, then I probably could have nailed it. But now, since we've had that tournament, there's a lot of names that I've kind of, blended, mixed in. But feel free. I'm interested in the challenge.
No, I'm just curious. So I mean, there's some things that stand out to me on this front page. So you mind if we dig into it a little bit?
Yeah, that's what this is for, man. Ask away.
So right off the bat, I mean, Timmy at the top there. And you do such a spectacular job with these stats and whatnot, but I'm wondering with Tim if there should be an audit to see if his numbers are truly what I'm looking at here.
They're legit.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I'll tell you right off the bat,
I believe
they're
it. And Stomps, come on, with all the games we've seen Timmy play,
I know
he scores like a machine. Like, I mean, look, it does show he's played them almost. I think he's played the most amount of games as well, right?
If for a player, for like a runner, yes. But if you combine goalie and player, I've played the most games.
Okay.
I'm at like 244 games if you combine my goalie and my regular playing. But Tim's not that far behind. I think he's like at like, I don't really remember.
His total games played is 478.
Yeah, he's at 478. So
yeah,
man, I had it written down.
Eric, does that include, because I've seen Tim play goal occasionally at Woodridge. Does that count his games in goal or no?
No, so he's played 478 games as a runner, right?
Okay, as a runner.
And yeah, as a runner. So those are runner stats. We do have a whole section on goalie stats, which I encourage you to look at as well.
Yeah,
but Tim's played 19 games in goal. So my math is terrible. I wish Dan Bruner was here because he's great at math on the fly, but shout out to Dan. Let's see. So I'm going to embarrass myself here. So total with goalie, Tim's played 497 games.
okay. So he's played 19 games in goal.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's a healthy amount. I
Yes.
don't mean to take you off your topic here, but I think we should do a big celebration for the 1000th game. That's probably something we should do, right? Like maybe it can be on NBC or something. I don't know. We could figure it out.
That would be quite the spectacle, right? So for contrast, I've played 518 games. If you combine my goalie and players.
Oh, that's a lot of games. Yeah, that's a lot of games. Like
right. And nobody nobody could possibly have the opportunity to play all 784 games. And the reason why is because that 784 includes tournaments, includes all our different leagues that we did for those few years. So there was no way someone could play every single game. But what I will say is that Tim rarely misses a pickup game. And that's why he's got so many games played, because he just loves to play. That's his favorite place to play. He's told me that many times, and I appreciate his investment, because to me, he's not only am I, semi-related to him through family, but he's just a great guy and a great player. He's just made everything better as far as I'm concerned.
And I think this venue is designed for a guy like him. I was speaking to him about this a couple of times, and he likes the, size of the venue. I think it's better on his knees. He's had some, knee issues in the past. I actually think this venue is great for some of the older guys who don't want to run in that full Palatine rink. But I'll send it back over to Stomps. I know he's got stuff to.
No, I mean, I agree, because I'll occasionally say something to Tim like, yeah, are you going to come out to Palatine? I'll just throw that out, and he'll say, no, the Woodridge, this is it for me. And not to start controversy, but I'm kind of headed down that path myself. Maybe slowly but surely. But so yeah, here's some other things that stand out if you guys want to comment on. Joe obviously in the second slot, big numbers. Mike Scales there in the third slot. And the thing that really sticks out for me is, number one, he's got a lot less games played. His winning percentage, I think, is by far the highest.
Yeah, for that many games, absolutely.
And points per game is the highest. So no surprise there, right? I mean, that just tremendous Eric, we've talked about your numbers, which are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a lot. If you look at if you go by averages, there's people who've played less who have much better averages, like Frank, for example. So if Frank played more, he would definitely overseat me. But again, this isn't like a pride thing for me. I just like to know where I stand. And I'm okay. Whether I was 4th or 20th, it doesn't matter to me. I just come out there because I like to play.
No, I mean, and you just touched on Frank. I mean, in the top 5, his games played are way lower, so his averages are higher. So that's pretty darn impressive.
He's got a nice win-loss record too. Look at that, 114 to 71. That's good. One thing you'll notice, if you haven't noticed this, I'll point it out. Look at the win percentage between everybody.
Right.
With the exception of Mike, look how much parity there is there.
I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
It's hovering around 50-50, which is a testament to the way the teams are built.
Yeah. I mean, even for me, I could basically implement the most biased when I make teams, right? So if anything, people could say, oh, Eric, nobody says this, but someone could say oh, Eric puts the teams in his favor. Well, I mean, 51% win percentage, not really. I mean,
right.
But I keep an eye on that too. If I start getting up there, I'm okay, am I putting too many good guys on my team? But I tend to do the opposite. I tend to kind of put the better competition against me because I like to play better competition. I feel it makes me better. So.
Right. A couple of things do strike me though, now that you talked about win percentage though. If you look at some of those leaders in the top 20 here, interesting stats around Anthony Martino, we know he's a prolific scorer out there. He's top 7 at a 40, just under 50%. Sheets as well, around 45% in terms of winning percentage. That surprises me. And then you have Sam Espinoza and Gabe Sam at 42 and Gabe at 38. So I'm wondering if those players want to take a look at those stats and maybe sort of reflect on their own game and see if there's areas in which they can, improve their team's winning ways.
So one bit of, I guess, I don't think I want to call it inside information, but just food for thought is this. Guys like, Gabe and Sam, usually when they're playing, they're probably arguably some of the best offensive players out there, depending on who's on the court, right? So typically those guys are kind of assigned to teams first because I try to split up the offense, offense, speed, all that stuff. So Sam and Gabe often have to kind of be the leaders on their team for offense. And I think that shows in their statistics, but they may not necessarily reflect in their win percentage, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So, but I usually notice that there is a common thing, and tell me if I'm mistaken with this hypothesis, is usually when you build a team out that might have a little bit more offense, you try to balance that out with the goaltending.
Yeah, it depends who the goalies are. Let's say that I've got a matchup where I've got Billy and then I've got a less experienced goaltender. Well, sorry, Billy, but I got to give the other team the better offensive players, or maybe you've got an uneven amount of offensive players, right? Maybe you've got 5 really top tier offensive players. Well, I'll put 3 on the team with the goalie that's, not Billy's equal. And then I'll give Billy only 2, or, maybe I'll give Billy defensemen that aren't as mobile, and I'll give the other team more mobile defensemen. Again, this isn't a criticism towards how people play or who they are athletically. It's just more of these are kind of the thoughts I think of when I'm making these teams. I want to make sure I distribute the speed and the talent fairly, but sometimes it's hard because there's intangibles, right? You don't know how someone's feeling that day, right? If you could show up to a game and you could just had a bout of food poisoning all night, but you really wanted to play hockey and you figured, well, maybe I can come and sweat it out. But if you don't say anything to me, then I'm oh, well, Nav's a good matchup for me, so I'll put myself against Nav. But I come into the game and I feel great, right? And you're just not able to perform how you normally do. So then that matchup gets kind of skewed, right? So things like that happen. But ultimately, I just try to make sure that the talent, the speed, and the goaltending is kind of even on both sides. it's not a science. It's just kind of knowing like how people play and who you think is going to put an effort, and but you never know what you're going to get. I mean, some guys normally, like I come out and I've like the last 4 weeks, like I've lost every game except I won finally on this Sunday in the first game. But in goaltending, I played 4 games this year and I've won 1. I mean,
wow, yeah. Well, I did, like I said earlier in the show, I did think you played really. You looked very comfortable in the net. There's a couple of surprises on here. I say that in a complimentary way. And just to go back to what I said about those guys with a lower winning percentage, I'm not knocking them. I'm saying they're great players, and I thought they would have had higher winning percentages. This is not a knock on any of those guys. So if you're watching at home, please don't be offended. I apologize. I usually do get feedback after the show. Someone will come up to me and say, well, hey, thanks for being such a jerk. That's not what my intention is. So I just want to clarify that. But then I see Peter Borzuda. I mean, I believe he's on your management team, right?
he is, yes.
And he's got healthy statistics here, actually, if you look at them. 289. He's a very reliable defenseman, I'll tell you that. And lately I've noticed he's been taking more shots from the point. I don't know if you guys have noticed an evolution in his game.
His game has changed. Like most people who come out here and play who have no hockey experience, their games evolve over time and you see them get better. And that's probably the biggest like compliment I can get, as running this thing, is when I see people come out and stick with it and get better. Like, that's awesome. Like, I don't know. It's just awesome. I have no other words for it. But on Peter, right? He's got good stats. And again, following your narrative, Nav, not here to offend anybody. But
Right.
Peter's not a guy like I would put on a team first and then balance the team around Peter, right?
Right, of course. Yeah.
And that's no offense to Peter. It's just we all play different roles. Like I don't, unless like there's no like top tier A offense players, I never balance a team around myself because I'm not that kind of player that can carry a team, at least in my opinion. I know what I'm good at defensively, but to carry a team, I don't know if that's really my role. But point is, like, there will be guys like that where, they're like a car, they call them sleepers, right? You
Yeah.
got these sleeper players who they've got good stats. You're like, well, how does that happen? It's because they just play their role and they've been successful at it.
Right. I think it's great. No, it's a great insight. It's good to see Keith Grody still holding that top 10 spot. We haven't seen him in a long time. It would be great if he watched the show, or, I know that, he doesn't come out anymore on Sundays, but he was a tremendous defenseman. I tell you,
Yeah, he's great.
I love playing with him. And it's, I look at the defensemen on this list. Obviously, you got yourself leading the charge. And then you got Tom there, Keith Grody, and then I guess Peter and myself are on that list. And Sam Ansari's there as a defenseman as well.
Yep.
So
He's
it's
in the
good
top 20.
Yeah, it's good to see you have a couple of other guys different positions. So, some defensemen are getting accolades and making it on that list.
You're forgetting a name on here. You just blew right past somebody. The great Tom Kovar.
Oh, I thought I said Tom's name. I'm
You
sorry.
did mention Tom. Yeah,
I did say
give him a
Tom.
shout out.
Yeah.
In the 6th slot.
Yeah. Which is another one of the, like, I was surprised to see that, not because I don't think he's a good player, but another guy that just, he shoots from the point a lot. He used to shoot a lot more from the point. He's an aggressive player too. He's not shy to like sort of nudge you or hit you in the back going in the corners, right?
No, but the nice thing about Tommy is like he means well. It's just sometimes he's a little aggressive. But
Right.
He's played 384 games. That's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know the actual percentage that out of 784, but look, it's just nice to see. Like, he's very unassuming, but I mean, he's been there a lot, and so
Yeah.
it's just nice to see.
Quiet.
When he swears in Czechoslovakia. Get a little of that. Hey, this Keith Grody guy, the name is just not familiar. Should I know him through, has he played at Palatine?
He was on the Foxhounds, wasn't he, Eric?
Yeah, he played for the Foxhounds for like the first 2 or 3 seasons. Then he had a health issue, which I prefer not to share.
Sure.
for his own, privacy. But because of the health issue, he hasn't really played since. So I've seen him pop in on Palatine here and there, but need to reach out to him. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to peer pressure people in the plane. There's a big history on that, but that I won't go into. But I try to just kind of let people be and just let them know, like, yeah, we're still here and come and pop in whenever you want. Door's always open.
Well, maybe you have a good reason to reach out to him now and tell him we gave him at least 4 minutes of airtime on the Neutral Zone, which is the leading sports telecast in the world today. Okay, so another thing, Steve Cementek, which is, I think I would consider him a late bloomer in the league. He's he didn't play from the very beginning, but he's quietly crawling up to 113 games. I see that kind of, and he shows up regularly, but he's another guy. Stomps is a big fan of his.
I'm a count me as a fan. I've already reached out to Steve, and we're working some deals behind the scenes, but it just the hustle and he scored a goal in that first game Sunday, and you saw his enthusiasm after he put it by Steve Fiorito, and I just love it. I like being on his team. He's a great guy, a great player.
He plays hard every game. He never dogs it, and I love that. I absolutely love that.
There's 3 guys I do want to call out outside of the obvious, Tim and Joe, and I'm sorry, Tim and Mike. I do want to recognize Justin Garlinski. I mean, he came out on Sunday. I mean, his making the top 20 with that few games at 82 games.
Yes. And
then having a very solid winning percentage. And if you look at his points per game, it's pretty outstanding. I think he's a deadly player when he comes out to Woodridge. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's an underrated player overall. He's just really strong on the stick. So as a defenseman, it's hard to get the ball off. But on Sunday, he's comfortable. Like whenever he's played, he's just really comfortable. And the court size, I think, suits his game really well. So right. I think that's why you see that kind of production. He's always been a good player.
Similar accolades should go to Dan Bruner as well, who hasn't played that many games. Most recently, I think a lot of it has to do to the travel. I think travel gets to him, although we live like in the same neighborhood. So I do come out every Sunday. So Dan, if you're listening, you can join the carpool. Go ahead, Stomps.
Well, I just wanted to go back to Justin real quick, if you could put it. So, I played with him on the Raiders, and I remember when he first started, he was the soccer player who came in playing ball hockey. And I remember, like, maybe it was the first year, maybe it was a year later, whatever it was, I declared him to be the most improved player because he's got an interesting skill set that, like, he's got a really excellent backhander, and a lot of guys never take backhanders. It's not an often used skill. So he's really good at that. And I was just reminded, because I haven't played with him at Woodridge. So when he showed up Sunday, it was a reminder of how skillful he is. I want to mention Sabo there in the 11th slot, because according to Mike Scalzitti and Sabo, when they're paired on the same team, they have like this incredible record, like, 29 wins out of 30 games when they're on the same team. I'm making that up. I don't know if that's exactly what it is. So it would be interesting to see what that is. If Eric might delve into the beats to see if that's true, because you may need to keep them apart in the future.
Well, all right, let me just put this plain out. If you play with a guy who wins 70% of his games, I think your win percentage is going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more of a function of Mike Scalzitti. No disrespect to Sabo.
I think Mike was giving Mike Sabo a lot of kudos, though.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think they play well together.
I would agree. I would agree that Mike was probably giving him kudos. I'm more leaning towards Eric's explanation of it. I do think that your hypothesis or your request to find out how many goals Justin has scored on the backhand, I don't know if Eric can pull that and put a new stat in there called backhanded goals.
I don't think we're keeping track of it.
Yeah, that's not a KPI I'm measuring, but
Right. Let's not ignore the next round of guys. Like, I don't want to dig deeper into this round. The
Well,
next
we
one.
skipped over you and Andre, and we can't. We just want to mention everybody. Mike Houston, who hasn't been there in a little while.
Okay, let's go back. Okay, so Eric, why don't you talk about those three? You have a pretty good sense of Mike Houston and Andre.
I mean, I think Andre's always had the skill set. I think it's improved since he started playing on Sunday. A little fact that a lot of people don't know is Andre actually ran his own hockey club out of Oswego, similar to what we do here, but much smaller scale, more of like a group of friends, but they'd get together like on Saturday afternoons and play. And that's kind of where like Andre and Justin and Jim Martyr and Tony Augsburg and Sebastian and a few others, came from. So I know I left a few out, so apologize to anyone I left out there, but Pete, I can't pronounce his last name, but anyway, Andre's gotten a lot better. He's become more of an offensive player, but Andre can play any position. And his goaltending this year has been outstanding. Like, I've played him, I think, 2 or 3 times, and he's beaten me in all the games. He's just, we played him Sunday, he was outstanding. So whatever he's doing, like, keep it up, man, because it's impressive. As for Mike Houston, another guy like Tim with a broken body, but tons of talent. People look at him like, oh, he can't move, he can't do anything. But that guy, he's deadly. He knows how to pass, he knows the game, he knows the court. You can't sleep on him. It's just, there's so many good names to mention. For me, like, just seeing the stats, like, even I was kind of like surprised to see some of the stats that I saw, to see how many games somebody played. More so, like, a lot of people that I thought played a lot longer. I thought they played a lot longer than they really did. That was probably the biggest surprise for me. And obviously Tim's total points, like, but no, it's just nice to see that you can actually tell like what your production was over the years, and you can go back through each year and see, and I offered this out on the app too. Like, if someone really wanted to see like their year by year breakdown and they wanted like a chart of it, like, I would do it. I just asked for like a $10 hockey ball donation or something, because it does take me time to build the tables and everything. Sure. But that offer's still out there if someone really wants to know and look at that. So
I think Mike Houston has the second, arguably the best wraparound in Woodridge. His wraparound goals. If you think about, if we were to go back and really like see video of that, he's got a lot of wraparound goals.
His hands are great. Like, I pride myself on being like, a good board battler, and you black guys can both attest to that. But yeah, he's hard to take the ball from, and he's a lot older than me. His body's busted up, and I still have trouble taking the ball from him because he's just that good.
Yeah. Speaking of you, Eric, I know Stomps wants to put me in the hot seat here too, but I never get to play against Eric. That's one thing I'll say. I
play against me all the time.
Sorry, with Eric. I never.
Yeah, it's seldom. It is seldom.
But yeah, I was just more or less surprised with my number of games. I didn't know I had 152. There's a couple of guys out there that have a lot more games than me, but I've kind of missed a little bit here and there.
But you're, for a defenseman, you've got a good points per game. You're more of a natural goal scorer than I am, obviously. And you've got more wins than losses, so you're doing your part.
Hey, what about you changing your game?
Eric hasn't noticed that yet. I'm not shooting as much, Eric. Did you notice that?
No, I haven't. I just every time I turn and look and you call ball in, you're launching that ball. So I don't know who you're trying to sell that to, but I'm not buying it.
I tried to sell it to Snobs. All right. So a couple of other guys on this list. We'll kind of spend a little less time. I do want to highlight, we have Stomps with a whopping 114 games. I don't know, for a guy that just joined Woodridge, just one game pre-pandemic. So Stomps joined Woodridge one game, the last game before the shutdown, and you already have 114 games.
Well, I mean, honestly, Stumps, how many weeks have you really missed? I don't think you've missed any. Maybe one or two.
Yeah, well, I missed not last week, but the week before I was traveling.
Right. But other than that, you're consistent. And I mean, that's great. I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you playing. It's
If I played as many games as Tom Kovar, I'd vault into the 5th or the 6th spot.
You would. Keep playing. You gotta keep playing, man.
No,
That's why I'm up there. I play a lot. That's why I'm up in the stats.
So who's Sean Wilson?
So Sean's a player I met at wow. Okay. So when my brother played still in 2008, early 2009, Sean Wilson knew one of my brother's friends who played, and that's how he got involved. And through Sean Wilson, I met other guys like Chris Bedford, Steve Salinas, Vinny Lopez. And I also played with Sean for a bit up at the YMCA in Oak Park, where Chris Frederick actually played for a long time too. I think that's actually where I first kind of met Chris. But like we all used to play up there on, I think, Wednesday nights before like all of us kind of joined Palatine. So Sean was kind of like a mentor for me a little bit. He's religious and he's kind of philosophical, at least to me he was. So I really took his advice, with care. And I always felt he was a great player, a good person. But man, on the court, he was rough. Like he was rough to play against. Borderline a dirty player, maybe. I mean, he could get rough, and it was kind of a side you're like, who the hell is this guy? But that's kind of encompasses who Sean is. Unfortunately, he doesn't really play anymore. He's really like he's a charitable person. He does a lot of charity stuff for people who are like disabled, and really good person. I can't say anything bad about him at all, and never would I. Just a good dude, and I wish he played still, but whatever he's doing, I wish him well.
Yeah. Well, listen, another guy on this list that I can't ignore, who's another fine person, is Mark Kamey. Like that guy is such a great guy. I miss seeing him. I wish he could come out. Do you think you could? I guess you're not going to persuade him to come out, but if he's listening and watching at home, he would be great to come out to Woodridge again.
I mean, I shoot messages to guys periodically, not as much as I need to.
Right.
Because if you look at the laundry list of people I know from hockey, like it's pretty long. I could send a message to one person a day and still not cover it. So
yeah,
I need to get better. I need to find a system where I can do that better.
Right. There's a couple of names on here that I'm, like right ahead of Stomps. You have Mike Marino, who hasn't been around for a while. He was a regular for quite some time. Stomps, you're kind of closing in on Mike Marino. I think you're like 9 points. You should, if Mike doesn't come out, you should probably catch him and Steve Salinas. There might be a celebration for you, Stomps, as you might get into that top 20 sometime soon.
Is Dylan, is that Timmy's son?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, chip off the old block. So, and look at that winning percentage.
He played with his dad for most of those games. So
right. And Eric, would you agree? I would say we were the last Woodridge dynasty. Me, you, Timmy, and Dylan. That was a remarkable team.
I mean, in the league, Tim's teams pretty much dominated. Tim is arguably one of the top 3 best players in the league, and 2, Tim knew how to pick talent. I liked the league format for what it was. It was just hard to maintain because you need a good player base, and it waned a little bit. But Dylan played a lot on with his dad because obviously he wanted to play with his son, so we made it work. But as the leagues went on, we were trying to kind of handicap him a little more because not only could he play, but he could pick teams. So, but no, I mean Dylan's a great player too.
Yeah. I could see John Kelly kind of moving up the stats pretty quickly. He hasn't played that many games at 38, but I mean, he doesn't need too many games to get a lot of points, that guy.
No.
This is great. This is Stomps. You have any more questions on these all-time point leaders?
You should go to the goalies or the
Yeah,
career leaders.
let's take a look at the netminders.
A lot of pages.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there. What? Oh, this is cool. You got your goals leaders.
Yeah, so it tells you how many goals, how many games they, or goals per game, and then how many games they played, just for some context. Same thing with assists.
Is there a reason that you have on the assists you put Sheets as 11? Is it because he's tied with Andre? Okay, so they're tied for 10th. That's what you got.
Right. Yeah, I probably forgot the tally there.
Yeah. No, that's great. That makes sense. Points per game, games played. Clearly, Tim's ahead on that. Let's go to the goalies here. So here we go.
So the career is like all the different games we played. This includes tournaments, our league format games, and our pickup games. So there's no surprise Billy's number one. Cheers to Billy.
Yeah, congratulations to him. That's we did a segment last week, the men behind the mask, or a week or two ago. So I'm looking, did Dave Schmiel ever play out here?
He did, but
He did.
I think he's on the second page.
Okay, because he hasn't got that many games. Okay.
No, I think he's played under 10 games.
Okay, all right. So a couple of Arts played some games. Adam Bruno's there. Okay.
Yeah, Dave's only played 8 games. That's why.
You know what? I think it's fair to say though, Eric, that it's kind of you and Billy kind of like holding that the 1 and 2 slot. Like it's you guys, and then I know the other guys have played a lot of games, but I look at winning percentage when I look at goalies. Not to say that we don't capture saves, right? Like shots on goal and all that, but I look at winning percentages, and there's a big gap between the two of you and the rest of the crew there.
So, yeah, I mean, no argument. If you really want a nice breakdown, if you go down further,
Sure.
it breaks down goalies by like everything they've played. Yeah, keep going. Here you go. So you can see the breakdown for Billy, like all his stats, like for the tournament, the pickup, the summer leagues, and then his main totals. So you can see what the individual accolades were for each of those.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. I didn't even get to this point. No, but this is, again, though, it goes to show, right? Like you have 89 wins. He's got 96 wins, right, in total? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, and I mean, if you look at it, the majority of my games are like pickup games where he did a lot of the leagues. He did the tournament. Tournament helped a lot for like Billy and a lot of the better goalies. Like it really helped goals against, because technically those were like only half games, but I still counted them as a full game.
Sure.
So,
sure.
But I don't come on here to like debate like who's a better goalie. Like I think Billy's always been the better goalie. He's played a lot longer at a higher competitive level. If anything, it's a compliment to me to be so close, because I come from playing ball hockey on a driveway, and everything else was just through work ethic and sheer will. So there's no shame in being two. There's not.
Oh, absolutely. And then look at Greg Frere. Is he still playing? Where's Greg Frere? He was another good goal. He's got a good, healthy winning percentage as well.
Greg was great. So for like the early years, like 2009, 2010, 2011, it's pretty much me and Greg going head to head. Greg moved to Florida, so that's why you don't see him anymore.
Okay.
But he still plays ice hockey.
Okay.
But yeah, Greg was very good. It was basically me and him battling each other every game. Kind of like how you see Art and Steve, or Art and Chris Hay, or Chris Hay and Steve. It's kind of like, that tandem. Back then it was like me, Steve, and Greg beating the hell out of each other. So
yeah, Stomps likes to call Andre the unorthodox Dominic Hasek.
Yeah. Yes.
And Dominic Hasek, as we know, has enjoyed a lot of success in his career. I don't think that, to be honest with you, Eric, as great as Andre played in that second game on Woodridge, I don't think he outplayed you. I think he played really well. I think that you played well. You gave us a chance to win Andre played well against us as well, but I don't think it wasn't like one goalie was better than the other. I thought both goalies were on their game on Sunday. I know you like to criticize yourself a lot when playing that and think, I should have had that one, but there was both goalies. That was a good battle.
I mean, I played as well as I could.
Yeah.
I don't beat myself up as much as I used to because I don't play the position consistently anymore.
Mhm.
So it's not fair. Like I'll drive myself off a bridge if I sit here and castrate myself for having a bad game. Like literally coming in that game, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to try to have fun and do the best I can. And I think that really reflected in how I played. But if you were to look at the 2022 stats, actually humor me here, go all the way to the back to the top.
Sure. You bet. Mhm.
I'm going to brag about myself a little bit here. So there you go. Okay, so scroll down to the goalies for 2022.
Sure.
Okay. So as you can see, I'm in 9th place, right? And this sorts by power ranking. And for people who don't know what power ranking is, it's basically like a number value. So anytime a goalie wins a game, he gets 2 points added to his power ranking. If he loses one, he loses one. If he loses a game, he loses 1 power ranking. And then the rest of the points come from a goal differential. So if you let in anything less than 8 goals, like let's say you let in 4 goals, then you would get 4 points added to your power ranking for every goal that you're under 8. The reason I have a power ranking rating is kind of just to give goalies like, you know, a ranking besides like win and loss. So that's kind of how that's designed. I don't have the legend in here yet. That's one of the things I have to put it back in, but that's basically how power ranking works for goalies.
Oh, okay.
But to get to my point here, like I'm number 9, right? I'm a -1 power ranking. I'm 1 in 3 out of 4 games. But what do you notice on this list that sticks out when you look
Your
at
goals
my
against.
Goals against.
Yeah. Yeah.
again, I'm not really one to self-promote, but when I look at my own stats and I say you're playing like crap, you can't win a game, I look at a stat like that. Am I doing my job?
Right.
Now 9 is high for my career average, but also our goals. If you look at like our average goals per game there, right below, see where it says average attendance, average goals per game, and then average score differential. I mean, we're averaging 22, almost 23 goals a game. So if you take half that, that's almost 12 goals that a goalie is letting up per game, right? And I'm at 9, so I'm 3 under that. So in terms of how like, and this is just even advice to other goalies who play and look at their stats. Like you can't always just look at the wins and the losses. You got to look at like where else you're performing too. But that's why these stats are nice, because you kind of look at those things. And
I think that's kind of cool. I'm glad you brought that up. So like, for example, if you look at week 6, right, or game 6, in game 6, there was a total of 32 goals. So say that score was tied at 16-16.
Right.
That would mean that the goal, if you had, like you giving up 9 goals is clearly lower than half of every single game here, if you look at it, right? Because look, you're in the 20s, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's an amazing stat, actually. And I see, again, it's you and Billy Jacques kind of separating yourself from the rest of the pack. Yeah, you know, Andres looks pretty good there as well.
No, like I said, Andre's having a great season.
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing, it's working. So, you know, keep it up, man. Shout out to Dre.
You know, I'm a huge fan of Bobby Dickinson, but I look at that number 16 there and I think it's probably something.
One game.
Yeah, it's one game. It's one game.
We
You
have
know,
a conversation.
you know, in all fairness, Woodridge is a different goaltending game than Palatine. Palatine's more about angles. It's more about like
Sure.
your positioning. Woodridge is more about reaction time and you know, agility and just kind of trying to be ready for like anything that comes at you, because goals happen so quick, as you know.
Yeah, no,
But yeah, those are just, again, I don't want to self-promote or preach myself. You know, over the years, I think my goaltending speaks for itself. I was really proud of like the kind of goalie I turned into. Now that I don't play consistently, like it's a little harder to come out there and not be able to deliver the same thing. But
right.
you know, this is just a reminder, like, yeah, even though I'm not doing well, like on paper, like there are other things you can look at that kind of justify, like, you know, you saying like, oh, you're not totally garbage at this game. There are things that you're doing well. You know, and sometimes you just don't win. You could play great and still lose, right? I think all of us can relate to that.
Listen, I'll tell you right now, if you played the way you played in one of the 8 a.m. games, and you'd win that game hands down. I mean, you were facing some deadly shooters. Listen, to those viewers at home, you're watching season 3, episode 1 of the Neutral Zone, where we have an extended version today, as we needed, because we're going over some really exciting and compelling career stats of all time at Woodridge. We've looked at the top 20 the top 20 players of all time in Woodridge history, from player runners as well as goalies. We just finalized the power rankings. Before we get into the last part of the show, I wanted to just encourage everybody that's on the Hockey Monsters app to take a look at this file. I mean, we just dissected it a little bit. We probably only looked at 10% of the capabilities of what's out there. I think there's some real interesting things. If you really want to reflect on your own game, take a look at your line item and see if there's things, whether it's winning percentage, goals per game, things that you want to sort of work on your own game. I think this is a really good preview into the type of player you are. So if anything, another unintended advantage of this is that it allows players to sort of look at themselves and see, hey, listen, I want to start winning more. There's things I want to work on. Maybe Justin wants to score more backhanded goals. I don't know. But Stomps and Eric, any closing comments on this? Eric, but the floor is yours, guys, on these stats.
I just want to say, go to one more section.
Sure.
I can probably tell you the page. Let me find it.
No problem.
Go to page.
We could probably do a mini series on this.
We probably could go to page 34.
Okay. I don't want to do it manually, but there's probably a way I can do this faster.
I think you can click on the 12 there or the 13 and change it right there.
34?
Yep, 34. Hit enter. Okay.
Great.
So these are records that we have in the club. So what you see here is you see like our career game statistics over the years from 2008 all the way to 2022. And then to the right, it kind of lists out some of our records, and below some more records. So just another kind of shout out. Some people here have some pretty outstanding records. Coincidentally, I'm on a lot of these. Again, this is not a self-promotion thing at all. It's just, I thought these stats were, interesting and kind of cool to see. So I'll let you kind of digest that.
Actually, this is really cool. Again, another one. Congratulations to this Ron Anderson with 12 goals in one game.
Yeah, I mean, it was our first game we ever played. So, and he still holds the record. So
the game has evolved. Let's face it.
Like the first game is nothing like what we play now, but it's still the record. So I honor it.
Yeah, but Sheets as recent as 2021 got 11 goals. So that's a huge, that's almost a quadruple hat trick.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I don't think I have that many goals over 7 games.
Well, you got 9 assists in one game in 2018. That's big as well. 9 assists, that's the record. Lowest goals against. So you got a shutout in 2008.
I'm the only one who has a shutout in a pickup game. The only one.
Yeah.
Steve Fiorito's got to shoot for that now.
That is the hardest stat. If you want to know what the hardest stat to achieve in our games, it's that. If you can get a shutout in a pickup game, you're one of the elite, or you just had a performance for the stars. It's extremely hard because even if you're playing against guys who can't score, I mean, you're bound to let a goal in. It's just the nature of the game.
Eric, I think that's amazing. I mean, you got a shutout in a pickup game, but then if you look as recent as, in 2013, you only let in 1 goal. And then Andre and Greg both matched you in 2021 and 2010.
Yep.
1 goal as well.
Even 1 is just outstanding.
Yeah. Do you remember when that 1 goal was scored on you? Was that at the dying seconds of the game, or was that early in the game?
It was if I remember correctly, it was in the third. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
wow.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, even 1 goal is almost a shutout in my opinion, but Yeah, I just thought it was interesting stats. Like, down below we talk about like, most games we've played in a year, lowest goal spread in a year, our best average attendance, maybe stuff that doesn't matter to people, but, just some tidbits on like, I do kind of watch some of this stuff, like our highest scoring game and, maybe our smallest game or largest game. And I mean, when you think about it, again, we're just a group, a club, and we just get together and we play, floor hockey, right? And we've got all these accolades because I keep these stats. And, anytime someone's like, oh, I don't know why you keep that, it's a waste of time. Well, this is why. So we can reflect back on it and see the history of it and see our place in it. And I think there's a lot of value in that you don't get from other leagues.
Yeah, and what's an interesting stat that I just picked up, and Stomps is more of the analytical guy on the neutral zone, but you look at the pandemic in 2020, and I think part of 2021, but you have a total games of 90 in the
tournament, though. The tournament added a lot.
Yes, right, because that was right in the middle of the pandemic, right, or near the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2016 and 2017 were when we were doing our leagues,
right.
So there were more games too.
This is incredible. But I remember people were dying to play during the pandemic. So that's one thing I did want to say on this show. No, these are good stats. Thanks for directing our attention to them. I do think we touched on this earlier. Eric, one thing I should kind of state on the show here and go on public record is that during the lockdown and during, this pandemic that we all faced, Woodridge was a place that people could still come to. And I know you did it in a safe and responsible way, but I think it helped a lot of people. And I don't know if you've been told that or not, but a lot of people really needed hockey, and Woodridge was one of the places, because it was an outdoor venue, which provided more of a safe space in terms of the viral transmission. So I think it was awesome to have it.
As it comes to the tournament, make sure you thank Frank too, because he had his hand in that too. So all credit to Frank. He kind of helped with, the scheduling. I did the other piece, and that was the first time him and I collaborated on a tournament, and I thought it went great. So obviously there are things again that I would change if I did it again, and we might do it again someday. Have to give it more thought and see what the demand is, but I won't count that out.
Right.
So,
and I'll continue to advocate for you doing it again and not changing the teams, because I think the 9-inch males have an opportunity to really make a dent.
To redeem themselves.
Right. Hey, listen, guys, do you mind if I shift gears here for a second?
No, go ahead.
Real quick. And this is not going to take too long. I just wanted to preview Frank's new setup that he has for the Wednesday League. And I know we're currently in the process right now of having the first 2 weeks our exhibition, where what happens is each team has, there's 4 teams. There were 5, I think there was 5 or 6, but 2 ended up dropping out because of numbers and some other unforeseen reasons. But we have 4 teams right now. Each team has 5 protected players. They're called their core players. And what Frank does is he asks you, I think 5 days before to start, 4 or 5 days before to start going on the Team Chicago app for the Wednesday sign-up sheet. So what Frank does is he fills each of the rosters with players to make each of the games competitive. So tomorrow we have the second of 2 of the exhibition games before we start the league. At 7 in the 7:30 slot, we have what I like to call Dynamo in net with Art Carpenter, myself, my son Solomon, Tommy Marouk, Eddie Urban will not be able to play, and Josh Hamlin will be there. We'll be replacing Eddie Urban with somebody else that Lou has brought on the team. And then some of the guys surrounding the roster include Mike Ferenga, Gary Schwendinger, Matt Milkovich, Roger Romano, Lou Mangini, John Trapani, Sam Espinoza. They'll round out that team, which is my team. And then we'll be playing against, I guess, somewhat of a Raiders team here. A combination of Raiders and some Southsiders there. Billy Jacques, Frank Klein, Jeremy Fredette, Miles Silvern, Alex Marcinkowski, Jeremy Wargen, Bob Silvern, Eddie Switek, James Marcinkowski, which is the brother of Alex, Chris Frederick, Steve Rankin, Luke Roth, and Sean Dennison. Stomps, what do you think about that matchup?
I'm going to give the edge to the Raider contingent.
Okay.
Especially with, as you said, Eddie Urban. But, again, I could see how they tried to balance things with the free agents. So, it's a work in progress.
Right.
That's why doing some exhibitions and it's never going to be perfect, but hopefully it'll be competitive. We'll see how it goes.
Right. And again, that's what the 2 weeks are, to kind of, just sort of iron out any kinks.
Right.
And then the second game, you have David Wagner's team with Stevie J. They're co-leading that with their core players of Todd Polson, Eddie Del Castillo, Sam Ansari, Mike Sabatini, and then filling out that roster are the likes of John Kelly, Patty Gleason, Bill Foley, Chris Sheets, Dan Bruner, Alex Kiperovich. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I apologize, Alex. Logan Kramer and Josh Kramer. Are those two brothers? Is Logan Josh's brother?
I don't know who Logan is, to be honest with you.
I'm guessing he is. Facing the likes of Bobby Dickinson, Giuseppe, which this is more of a Foxhounds team on the right here, now that I think about it. Giuseppe, who's been playing a lot on Mondays, Joe, Terry McMahon, Sean Frick, Dan Schwartz, Mike Scalzitti. Then you have the two the Gleasons, Joe Sr., Joey Jr., Chris Coyne, Chris Hay, Justin Garlinsky, and Mike Parisi. That's going to be an interesting one. I think you guys could both have an opinion on that game.
Well, so you would normally give the Foxhounds the edge over the other team, but then look at the free agents that the other team got in other Foxhound players, and John Kelly and Sheets and Bruner. But then again, the other side's got Mike Scalzitti. So I think it's pretty even.
What do you think, Eric?
I think it's a good spread. One thing I'll note is that, and this is, people should give Frank some sympathy on this. Balancing teams for Palatine is, in my opinion, a lot more difficult than balancing them for Woodridge. And the reason why is because you're dealing with more players and you're playing with offsides. So position strengths and weaknesses are more of a factor. And not only that, but because Frank's kind of like doing this by hand, the level of criticism he might get is going to be a lot higher. And I don't necessarily think that's fair, but that's just the reality of the environment. So like, if I can offer any advice to anybody about this whole thing, is just go with the flow. Try it out. I mean, at the end of the day, Frank's just trying to get this thing back going. My understanding is that doesn't really want to have to take ownership of it, but nobody else will. So it's a double-edged sword. People always kind of look at, oh, he's got power, so he calls all the shots. He gets to manipulate things how he wants. Yeah, it's one way to look at it, but the other way is he's got to be responsible for this, and he's got to take all the criticism, and he's got to sleep at night with that. So, at the end of the day, I sincerely think Frank's trying to do the best he can with it. But you're not going to make everybody happy. And I mean, these teams, I think I'd actually want to watch that game, to be honest, because it looks like it'd be a good game. So, kudos to Frank for that.
I agree. I think Frank, this league format is exciting. Actually, I think it's gonna reinstill some just some energy amongst the players. I did want to state something that's an obvious thing on here. I didn't see Stomps you signing up for any games on Wednesday. Are you retiring from Wednesday league? Are you against Frank's league? Is there something that you have a problem with that you want to share with the public?
Well, it's nothing major. It's just I got to go to Palatine on Saturday to ref games. Then I play on Monday at Palatine. I really don't want to drive to Palatine 3 times a week.
Right. And that's why
And
you
you
should
can
buy an
talk about the
electric car.
gas prices, but even without the gas prices, I don't necessarily,
Right.
because I have a pretty long commute, so that's part of the decision.
Right.
Um,
And Eric, you said that, I think I heard from you that you might sign up every once in a while when your schedule allows.
So I initially signed up as a free agent, but mostly my issue is like right now I'm trying to get like a Google certificate in data analytics. So I'm doing that, and that requires like a 10-hour commitment every week. My wife and I got a new puppy, and then my wife's traveling a lot. She goes to New York this weekend, and then in a few weeks after that, she goes to Vegas for another conference. So she's got a busy career going on. And then to mirror what Stomp said, like gas is really expensive. I've been mostly working from home. I'm in Batavia, and to drive all the way up to the rink, to play, I feel like I kind of succumb more to peer pressure than like my actual desire to play. So I think if I do end up participating, it'll be, later in the season. It's not that I'm against, to clear the air. I'm not against the format or what's going on. I did ask Frank if he could like keep all our Foxhounds together. He declined to do that because he wanted to keep the format fair, and I respect that. And despite some of the gossip that went around saying that we're Foxhounds were a bunch of babies, like that's not true. Like we really just want to get together, play, and have some beers after the game. We're not this power hungry group that just cares about winning championships. That's not our angle at all. It's just,
Right.
we don't know how much time we have to continue to play as a unit. So if we could do it, we'd want to do it. But I think the way Frank is doing things is trying to accommodate that as much as he can while keeping things fair. And, me personally, I've decided to, give him the benefit of the doubt and not be one of those people that just gives him a hard time. I've been one of those people in the past. I've criticized him for things. I've never been shy about criticizing things. And, I think where the state of ball hockey is right now, I think all of us need to kind of learn to cooperate a little better. I don't think we realize how fragile our sport is, how small it is. And I think we all need to do better. And you can disagree with me if you want, but as a guy who, as you just saw those career stats, you can question my commitment, but everything I've done says otherwise. It's, again, the message really is just hang in there and just let it play out, see how it goes. Like we all think we can do better, but if you're handed that opportunity, that might not be the case. So that's really all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, no, first of all, I think you're right. We are fragile. I think we are vulnerable to what's going on with this sport. I think the only thing I would say to guys like you and Frank and Scully that kind of run certain different hockey leagues is continue to be creative with what you're doing. And like what we just spent, the last hour and a half on one of the, I guess we should have a stat. This is the longest neutral zone ever. Where I would say continue to be creative because we're trying to, and I think Frank's intention is to really grow the sport, right? So, and I'm sure you'd love to see that as well. You're always welcoming new guys on Sunday morning at Woodridge. I think the more creative we can be to introduce, invite, and be welcoming, in the business world, right? Like one of the things they talk about with organizations is, diversity, inclusion, right? I'm sure Stomps, you've heard of it at your formidable employer. I would say there's a third part of that I wanted to add, and that's about belongingness, because I think people do have a desire to feel belonged in an organization, even if it's intramural hockey. So the more we can make people, and I think you guys do a great job of it, make people feel welcome and belong and feel that sense of belongingness, I think the sport will grow. Because, for example, I'm bringing my son out to Wednesday. I've asked him to bring out some of his friends, and I think that's the only way we're going to keep this, like you said, Eric, this fragile sport going. You know what I mean?
Well, it's tough because we're competing with mainstream sports too.
Right.
I mean, our parents going to take their kids to play floor hockey, where can they take their kids to play floor hockey, right? I mean, but they can find a soccer league anywhere, 2 feet of their house, probably. So we're competing with sports that we really can't compete with. That's kind of why I say we're fragile. And, if we're not careful, we're going to eat each other. We're going to eat each other, and then we're not going to have anything.
Right.
And I don't think that's what any of us want. But I think you hit a good point where you said, like, we kind of need to, like, be welcoming of people. And, I suffer at this too. Like, I kind of go through the motions on Sundays, and, someone new comes in, and I try to, like, introduce myself and say hi and thanks for playing. I try to kind of go through those motions, right? But, and a lot of other players are good about that, but not everybody is. And I guess my message for that is just, like, really appreciate when someone new comes in, because it's scary too. I mean, think about it. Like, Sunday, there's a lot of talent there. And if you don't really play floor hockey on a regular basis, like, you come in there and you're getting mopped, and that's not something you really want to come back to, right? So I guess we just all kind of need to be a little more mindful of, like, when new people come in and what they're dealing with. And I think it's easy to lose that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And two perfect examples of most recent additions to the Woodridge ball hockey community are John Trapani and Gerard Grabowski. I think those are two guys that came very late, but they were welcomed by you, Eric. I think, if I remember correctly, Stomps and I were having one of our long post-game conversations. I think you, Eric, you might have been part of some of that, where John Trapani and Gerard were actually just shooting right after the game ended. Do you remember that, Stomps? They were just shooting the ball around.
No, I could just tell you that many, many times they've come up to me and said how grateful they are of finding this organization. They said, where else can you show up to something and then all of a sudden you have 50 instant new friends, and that's kind of what they've told me about that, and they really appreciate it. It's great, 2 great guys, great to have them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Listen, we're almost at time. We still have another half hour. No, I'm just kidding. I do want to end on a very positive note. And I think the whole episode has been really encouraging, not only for the players that have committed several years to the sport, but also the new emerging players. And we talked about some recent players, but we really want to wish Danielle, who's currently playing, I think, at the Worlds in Montreal. We want to wish her so much success. She made the U.S. women's team, I believe, and she had a tournament, I think 2-3 weeks ago as a fundraiser. So we're rooting for you, Danielle, at the Worlds. And then second, Eddie Urban, who's also playing at this tournament as well. So we support Eddie from afar. He's a great addition to the Chicago ball hockey community. He's been with us for a few years, but just such a talented, great teammate, just all around good guy. We wish him so much success at the Worlds. And I know both of them watched the Neutral Zone, so you had to hopefully you didn't fast forward right to the end just to hear your names, but two outstanding players, and we are super proud of you, and we're cheering for you from afar. With that said, I'd like to close out season 3, episode 1, the season premiere of the Neutral Zone, where we were honored to have as our special guest Eric Grody, who walked through Woodridge career stats and much more for us, including always giving us a good history lesson of what's happened with this league and the evolution. Stomps, as usual, my esteemed co-host, ran the interview and did a tremendous job. I appreciate everything you guys do for the sport, and thank you to all the viewers that have tuned into the Neutral Zone. Please like and subscribe and share amongst your friends, especially as we recognize you, and I'm sure your parents would be proud to hear you being recognized. Any closing comments, Stomps and Eric?
My apologies to anybody who we didn't mention tonight. Obviously, a lot of players on that stat sheet, and if we didn't call you out, there was no ill will there at all. I'd like to mention every single person, but there's no time to do it. So that's all. But it was a lot of fun going through it.
Yeah, it was. Eric, anything last minute comments?
Yeah, just keep playing. Take a second to step back and think about the sport we play and what you get out of it. And, I know we're all tense about how we think things should be, but sometimes you got to stop and I guess smell the roses and just enjoy the path you're on. I know it's might sound hypocritical coming from me, but I think it's something that we all should try to strive to, to seek out. So, and come play on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I couldn't have said it better. And you mentioned something. We don't know how much time we have in this game and how much time we have in general. So, thank you very much, Eric, again. And we're going to close out. You tuned into season 3, episode 1, the season premiere of the Neutral Zone. Thank you very much.
Remembering the nights we spent out, seem so far away, distant in the tree.